Emperor Valdris sat on his crystal throne, looking down at the holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Thousands of red dots marked the worlds his empire controlled. Each dot represented millions of lives under his rule. The Zephyrian Imperium had been conquering planets for over 1,000 years, and no one had ever been able to stop them. "Your Majesty," said General Corax, bowing low, "we have found another world to add to your empire." The Emperor leaned forward with interest. New conquests always pleased him. "Tell me about this world." "It is called Earth, my lord. It orbits a yellow star in the outer regions. The creatures there call themselves humans. They are very primitive." A three-dimensional image of Earth appeared in the air above them. The planet looked blue and green, with white clouds swirling around it. It looked peaceful and beautiful, but the Emperor did not care about beauty. He only cared about power. "How primitive are they?" the Emperor asked. General Corax smiled. "They have only been in space for about 200 years. They have barely traveled beyond their own moon. Their weapons are simple nuclear devices. They fight wars among themselves constantly. They know nothing of the great civilizations that rule the galaxy." The Emperor laughed. "Perfect. Another easy victory for our glorious empire." Admiral Vex first stepped forward. He was the Emperor's best military commander, a tall alien with 4 arms and silver skin. "I request permission to lead the conquest fleet, Your Majesty." "Granted," said the Emperor. "But I want you to use overwhelming force. Make an example of this world. Let every planet in the galaxy know what happens to those who might think of resisting us." Admiral Lexfer bowed. "It will be done, my lord. I will assemble the 47th Conquest Fleet." Over the next few days, the Admiral gathered his forces. 500 massive dreadnought ships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. 2,000 heavy cruisers armed with plasma cannons that could melt mountains. 50,000 support ships carrying weapons, supplies, and troops. It was one of the largest fleets the Empire had ever assembled. The other admirals thought it was too much. "Why do we need so many ships for one primitive world?" asked Admiral Xerxes. "A single dreadnought could conquer them." But Admiral Lexfer knew the Emperor's mind. "His Majesty wants to send a message. When other worlds see what happened to Earth, they will surrender without fighting. It will save us time and resources in the long run." The massive fleet prepared to depart. Each ship was a floating city, home to thousands of crew members. The dreadnoughts were 3 kilometers long and bristled with enough weapons to level continents. The Zephyrian military had never lost a battle. Their technology was far beyond anything most species possessed. As the fleet prepared for the journey to Earth, Admiral Lexfer reviewed the intelligence reports. The humans had crude rockets that burned chemical fuel. Their fastest ships took months to travel between planets in their own system. They had nuclear weapons, but nothing compared to the Empire's plasma cannons and reality-breaking bombs. "They will probably try to negotiate," the Admiral told his officers. "Most species do when they see our fleet. They offer tribute, resources, slaves. But the Emperor wants total conquest this time. We will accept nothing less than complete surrender." The journey to Earth took several weeks through hyperspace. During the trip, the Admiral continued studying the human species. They seemed to be a curious race. They made art and music. They explored space despite their primitive technology. They had governments that sometimes worked together and sometimes fought each other. "They are like children," said Captain Vorthik, the Admiral's second in command. "Weak and divided. This will be over in hours." When the fleet finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, the sight was magnificent. Hundreds of massive warships appeared from nowhere, their hulls gleaming in the light of the human star. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. The combined firepower of the fleet could destroy entire solar systems. Admiral Dexfer stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet in the distance. "Send the standard ultimatum," he ordered. The message was broadcast in broken human languages that the Empire's computers had learned from intercepted transmissions. "People of Earth, you are now subjects of the glorious Zephyrian Imperium. Surrender immediately. Offer tribute. Submit to Imperial rule. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world." The Admiral expected the usual response: panic, fear, desperate attempts to negotiate. Maybe some primitive missiles launched in a hopeless gesture of defiance. That was how it always went. Instead, after several minutes, a simple message came back from Earth. The humans responded in clear, calm words. Message received. "Stand by." Admiral Dexfer stared at the communication officer. "Stand by? What does that mean?" "I do not know, sir. Perhaps it is how they say they surrender?" But something felt wrong. The Admiral had conquered dozens of worlds. He knew how civilizations reacted when faced with overwhelming force. They begged. They offered everything they had. They tried to buy time while planning desperate last stands. They did not say stand by as if the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was just another appointment on their schedule. The Admiral looked at his tactical displays. Earth's defenses were laughable. A few small space stations, some mining operations, scattered satellites that looked like primitive communication devices. There was nothing that could threaten even the smallest ship in his fleet. So why did he feel uneasy? "Sir," said the sensor operator, "we are detecting some human ships moving in the outer system. But they appear to be cargo vessels, not military craft." The Admiral relaxed slightly. Of course, the humans were probably evacuating their leaders or trying to hide their most valuable resources. It was standard behavior for a primitive species facing conquest. "Monitor their ships but do not engage yet," he ordered. "Let them panic. Fear makes surrender easier." But as hours passed, something strange became clear. The humans were not panicking. Their communication networks continued operating normally. Their orbital facilities maintained regular schedules. It was as if a massive alien invasion fleet had not just appeared in their system. The Admiral found this deeply disturbing. In his 400 years of military service, he had never encountered a species that reacted to conquest with such calm. "Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the danger," suggested Captain Vorthuk. "Or perhaps," said Admiral Dexver quietly, "we are missing something important." He decided to wait a little longer before beginning the attack. Something about this situation was not following the normal pattern, and that worried him more than any weapon the humans might possess. Admiral Dexver paced back and forth on his command bridge, his forearms clasped behind his back. 3 days had passed since the fleet arrived at Earth, and the humans still had not responded properly to their ultimatum. The Admiral had conquered 47 worlds in his career, and this had never happened before. "Show me their planet again," he ordered. The main display screen filled with images from their long-range sensors. Earth looked exactly the same as it had when they arrived. Cities glowed with lights. Ships moved between the planet and its moon. The humans seemed to be going about their normal daily activities. "Are you certain our translation was correct?" the Admiral asked his communication officer. "Yes, sir. We told them to surrender immediately or face destruction." The message was clear in all their major languages. And their response was just, "Message received, stand by?" "Correct, sir." Nothing else. Admiral Dexver did not understand it. When the Empire appeared at a world, civilizations either surrendered immediately or fought desperately. They did not continue their normal routines as if nothing had happened. Captain Vorthuk approached with a data tablet. "Sir, Our intelligence division has been monitoring human communications. You need to see this." The admiral took the tablet and read the translated reports. Human news broadcasts were discussing weather patterns and local politics. Their stock markets were rising and falling normally. Children were going to school. People were getting married, starting businesses, complaining about traffic. "Where are the reports about us?" the admiral demanded. "There are a few news stories mentioning unusual activity in space, but most humans seem to believe it is some kind of military exercise. Their governments have made no public statements about our presence." This was impossible. The 47th Conquest Fleet was massive enough to be visible from Earth's surface with basic telescopes. Hundreds of ships, each 1 kilometers long, hanging in space like metal moons. How could an entire civilization simply ignore them? "Perhaps their leaders are hiding the truth to prevent panic," suggested the intelligence officer. "Many primitive governments do this." Admiral HFY considered this explanation. It made some sense. If human leaders knew they could not fight the Empire, they might choose to keep their people calm while they figured out how to surrender properly. But then why had they not contacted the fleet directly? Every other species had sent desperate diplomatic messages within hours. They offered tribute, resources, anything to avoid destruction. The humans had sent nothing except that strange standby message. "Sir," said the sensor operator, "we are detecting movement from several human spacecraft. They appear to be repositioning around the system." "Military vessels?" "No, sir. They look like cargo ships and research vessels. Very small compared to our fleet. The largest is about the size of our shuttlecraft." Admiral HFY studied the tactical display. The human ships were indeed tiny, and they showed no signs of advanced weapons. Their hulls appeared to be simple metal construction. Their engines used primitive fusion reactions. Nothing about them suggested any threat to Imperial technology. "They are probably trying to evacuate their most important people," said Captain Vorthik. "Should we intercept them?" "Not yet. Let them move their cargo around. It changes nothing." But the admiral felt increasingly uncomfortable. Something about this situation was wrong. In his centuries of military experience, he had developed an instinct for danger. That instinct was screaming at him now, even though he could not identify any actual threat. The humans had no superweapons. Their technology was hundreds of years behind Imperial science. Their largest military forces appeared to be ground-based armies with projectile weapons. They had a few orbital defense platforms, but these were laughably weak compared to Imperial shields. So why did he feel like he was walking into a trap? "Sir, we are receiving another message from Earth," announced the communication officer. "Finally." "Put it on the main screen." A human appeared on the display. It was a middle-aged female wearing simple civilian clothing. She had dark hair and kind eyes, and she spoke with the calm confidence of someone used to being in charge. "Greetings, Admiral HFY of the 47th Conquest Fleet. I am Dr. Sarah Chun, Director of Dimensional Engineering for the Terran Defense Council. We apologize for the delay in our response. We have been analyzing your fleet and your intentions." The admiral stared at the screen. How did this human know his name? How did she know the designation of his fleet? Imperial communications were encrypted with quantum barriers that no primitive species should be able to break. "Dr. Chun," he said slowly, "you will surrender your planet immediately. Any delay will result in the destruction of your civilization." The human woman smiled slightly. "Admiral, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. You see, Earth is classified as a protected reality anchor under galactic preservation protocols. Your presence here violates several cosmic treaties." "What are you talking about?" the admiral demanded. "There are no galactic treaties. The Empire recognizes no authority except our own. Yes, we are aware of the Zephyrian Imperium's policy of non-recognition. However, certain laws exist whether you acknowledge them or not. I am transmitting the relevant documentation to your flagship. The Admiral's communication system suddenly filled with data written in languages he had never seen before. Mathematical equations that made no sense. Star charts showing regions of space that did not appear on any Imperial maps. References to civilizations and councils that were completely unknown to Imperial intelligence. "This is impossible," he said. "Where did this information come from?" "Admiral, may I ask how long your species has been spacefaring?" The question confused him. "The Empire has existed for over 3,000 years. "I see. And in that time, have you encountered any civilizations more advanced than yourselves?" "Of course not. The Empire represents the pinnacle of galactic evolution." Dr. Chun nodded sympathetically. "That is a common belief among developing species. Admiral, the Zephyrian Imperium controls approximately 0.003% of the galaxy. There are civilizations in this galaxy that were building starships when your sun was still a cloud of gas." The Admiral felt a chill run through his body. "You are lying." "I wish I were." "Admiral, you are currently threatening a world that serves as a critical anchor point for dimensional stability in this entire galactic region. If Earth were damaged or destroyed, it would create reality cascades affecting thousands of star systems." "Enough of this nonsense," the Admiral shouted. "You are a primitive species trying to frighten us with impossible claims. Prepare for bombardment." But even as he gave the order, doubt gnawed at him. How had the humans learned his name? How had they obtained information about galactic civilizations that the Empire had never discovered? And why did their primitive cargo ships seem to be moving in patterns that his tactical computers could not analyze? Dr. Chun's expression became sad. "Admiral, please reconsider. We really do not want to activate our automatic defense systems. The consequences would be unfortunate for your fleet." "Defense systems?" The Admiral laughed harshly. "What could your pathetic technology possibly do to Imperial dreadnoughts?" "Very well," Dr. Chun said quietly. "You have been warned." Dr. Chun out. The transmission ended, and the Admiral was left staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders. "Sir?" asked Captain Vorthik. "Should we begin the attack?" Admiral Dexfer looked at his tactical displays one more time. Everything showed the same thing. Earth was a primitive world with no significant defenses. The human ships were tiny and harmless. Victory was assured, but the feeling of wrongness had grown stronger, not weaker. "Prepare for bombardment," he said finally. "But stay alert. Something about this situation is not normal." He had no idea how right he was. Admiral Dexver had waited long enough. The humans had been given every opportunity to surrender, and they had responded with lies and impossible claims. It was time to show them the true power of the Zephyrian Imperium. "Target their moon," he ordered. "I want a demonstration that these primitives will never forget." The targeting officer looked confused. "The moon, sir? Not their military installations?" "The moon. We will carve out a crater large enough to be seen from their planet's surface. When they watch their moon burning in their sky, they will understand that resistance is hopeless." It was standard Imperial procedure. Most species surrendered immediately after witnessing such a display of power. Those who did not surrender usually collapsed into panic, making the final conquest much easier. The flagship's main plasma cannon began charging. The weapon was powerful enough to crack continents and boil oceans. Firing it at Earth's moon would create a scar visible across half the planet. It would be a message written in fire across the heavens. "Plasma cannon charged and ready, sir." "Fire." A beam of superheated energy lanced out from the Imperial flagship. It was bright enough to be seen with the naked eye, a line of pure destruction that could melt through anything known to Imperial science. The beam struck toward the moon's surface at nearly the speed of light, and then something impossible happened. The beam simply stopped. Not reflected, not absorbed, but erased. It struck an invisible barrier about 1,000 kilometers from the lunar surface and vanished as if it had never existed. Admiral Dexter stared at his displays in shock. What happened? Did we miss? No, sir. Direct hit confirmed. But the energy signature just disappeared. Disappeared? Energy cannot just disappear. Check your instruments. The sensor operator ran diagnostics on all his equipment. Everything checked out perfectly. According to their readings, the plasma beam had struck something and been completely eliminated from existence. Sir, said the science officer, his voice shaking, the energy readings are impossible. The plasma beam was converted to pure information and then deleted from reality. That makes no sense. Run the scan again. I have run it 6 times, sir. The results are always the same. Whatever defended their moon, it did not block our weapon or redirect it. It simply made it stop existing. A cold fear began growing in the Admiral's chest. In 4 centuries of military service, he had never encountered technology that could do such a thing. The most advanced civilizations in known space used energy shields that absorbed or deflected attacks. No one could simply make energy disappear. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth. Admiral Dexter almost did not want to hear it. Put it through. Dr. Chun appeared on the screen again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood several other humans, all wearing the same calm expressions. What worried the Admiral most was that they were speaking perfect Zephyrian, without any translation devices. Admiral Dexter, you have just fired upon a protected celestial body within the Terran defense perimeter. This action constitutes a violation of cosmic preservation laws. How are you speaking our language? The Admiral demanded. And how did you stop our weapon? We learned your language by analyzing your communication patterns over the past 4 days. As for your weapon, Luna is protected by a reality stabilization field. Energy-based attacks are converted to quantum information and deleted to prevent damage to the dimensional substrate. The Admiral felt like he was having a nightmare. That is scientifically impossible. Admiral, may I ask what your species knows about the fundamental nature of reality? We know everything necessary to conquer the galaxy. Dr. Chun sighed. The galaxy is much larger and stranger than your empire realizes. What you call reality is actually a very thin layer of stable space-time floating on an ocean of pure possibility. Earth serves as one of the anchor points that keeps this region of the galaxy from dissolving into quantum chaos. More lies. Prepare for full bombardment of the planet. Admiral, please do not do that. Something in her tone made him pause. She did not sound afraid. She sounded sad, like someone watching a friend make a terrible mistake. Why? What will you do to stop us? It is not what we will do, Admiral. It is what will happen automatically. When a sufficient amount of hostile force is directed at a reality anchor, the universe's preservation protocols activate. The threat is removed from the timeline to prevent cascade failures. Removed from the timeline? What does that mean? Before Dr. Chun could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the Imperial flagship. The Admiral spun to look at his tactical displays and felt his blood turn to ice. Space around the fleet was changing. Stars in the distance were shifting position slightly. The readings from their navigation systems no longer matched their stellar charts. Most disturbing of all, several of the smaller ships in the outer formation were beginning to look fuzzy around the edges. Sir, the navigation officer reported, his voice filled with panic. Our position coordinates are changing. Space-time itself appears to be unstable. That is impossible. Sir, the frigate Destruction's Edge is reporting that their crew is beginning to forget things. Names, mission details, even their own ship's designation. Admiral Dexfer looked back at the screen where Dr. Chun waited patiently. What are you doing to us? Nothing, Admiral. You triggered the automatic defenses when you fired on Luna. The process has begun and cannot be stopped. Your fleet is being edited out of the timeline to prevent damage to the reality anchor. Edited out? You mean destroyed? No. Destroyed implies that you existed and were then eliminated. You are being removed from the causal chain of events. Soon, your fleet will never have existed at all. The Admiral felt reality shifting around him like quicksand. On his displays, he could see ships throughout the fleet becoming more and more translucent. Crew members were forgetting their own names. Star charts were changing as battles his fleet had fought were erased from history. Wait! He shouted. Stop this. We will withdraw. We surrender. Dr. Chun shook her head sadly. I am sorry, Admiral. Admiral, the process cannot be reversed once it begins. In approximately 10 minutes, the 47th Conquest Fleet will never have existed. The Emperor will never have ordered your creation. The battles you fought will never have happened. The worlds you conquered will remember different histories. But that would change everything. Thousands of worlds, millions of lives. Yes, the universe is very good at editing itself to maintain consistency. New timelines will branch out to accommodate the changes. Most people will never know anything was different. Admiral Dexfer looked around his bridge as his officers became increasingly transparent. Some of them had already forgotten they were supposed to be there at all. The ship's computer was beginning to delete records that no longer made sense. What? What are you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Dr. Chun smiled kindly. We are what happens when a species that evolved to be persistence hunters gains access to the source code of the universe itself. Admiral, we do not conquer worlds. We debug reality. The Admiral tried to ask another question, but he could no longer remember what he wanted to know. The bridge around him was fading away. Through the disappearing viewports, he could see the rest of his fleet becoming more and more like ghosts. His last coherent thought was wonder at how calm and kind the human woman looked. She seemed genuinely sorry about what was happening to him. Then Admiral Dexfer stopped existing, along with his fleet, his battles, and his empire's memory of ever sending ships to a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. As the Imperial fleet advanced toward Earth, something strange began happening to the fabric of space around them. Admiral Dexfer noticed at first when his navigation officer reported that their coordinates kept shifting slightly, even though they were traveling in a straight line. Sir, our stellar positioning is off by several thousand kilometers. The computer keeps correcting our course, but the corrections do not make sense. The Admiral studied the navigation charts. They showed the fleet's position changing in ways that violated basic physics. Ships were somehow occupying coordinates that the mathematics said should be impossible. Check all instruments for malfunctions. All systems show normal operation, sir. But space itself seems to be resisting our passage. Captain Vorthik approached with more disturbing reports. Sir, several ships are reporting weapon malfunctions. Plasma cannons are firing in directions that do not match their targeting systems. Some weapons are firing at coordinates that do not exist. The Admiral felt his unease growing stronger. In his centuries of military experience, he had never encountered anything like this. Space was space. It did not resist passage or cause weapons to malfunction. Yet that was exactly what seemed to be happening. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We have lost contact with Imperial Command. Long-range communication is simply not working. What do you mean, not working? The signals are being sent, but they are not arriving anywhere. It is as if the space between us and our home worlds has been disconnected. Before the Admiral could respond, something appeared on his bridge, not materializing in a flash of light like a teleportation beam, not walking through the doors like a normal visitor. A human simply was there, standing near the command chair, as if she had always been present. It was Dr. Chen, the woman from the transmissions. She wore simple civilian clothes and carried what looked like a small data tablet. Her expression was calm and slightly apologetic. The Admiral and his officers stared in shock. The bridge was protected by the most advanced security systems in the Imperial fleet. Nothing should have been able to penetrate their shields, their armor, or their detection grids. How did you get aboard my ship? The Admiral demanded. I apologize for the unconventional entrance, Dr. Chen said politely. I tried to reach you through normal communication channels, but your systems appear to be incompatible with our current communication protocols. I decided a face-to-face meeting would be more effective. This is impossible. Our shields, our security systems. Admiral, you are currently inside a reality distortion field. Your ship exists in the same space as before, but that space no longer follows the same physical laws you are familiar with. I did not board your vessel. I adjusted the dimensional parameters so that I was already here. The Admiral's mind reeled. Nothing she said made sense according to Imperial science. You are using technology far beyond what our scans detected. That is correct. Earth has been classified as a Type 7 reality anchor for approximately 150 of your years. We have been discreet about our actual capabilities. Dr. Chen gestured toward the main view screen, and it suddenly showed a view that the ship's sensors had not been able to detect. The Imperial fleet was visible, but it looked wrong. The ships appeared to be phasing in and out of existence, like images reflected in disturbed water. Your fleet triggered our automatic defense systems when you fired upon Luna. The process has already begun. Your ships are being systematically removed from the timeline to prevent damage to the dimensional substrate of this region. Removed from the timeline? Captain Vorthik stepped forward. That is impossible. You cannot change the past. Dr. Chen looked at him with genuine sympathy. Captain, what you call the past is simply a series of quantum states that have been locked into probability. With sufficient understanding of reality's underlying code, those states can be edited. The Admiral looked around his bridge and realized that some of his officers were beginning to look translucent. Others seemed confused, as if they could not quite remember why they were there. Wait, he said desperately. We will withdraw. We will leave your system and never return. I am sorry, Admiral, but it is too late for that. The automatic defenses cannot be stopped once they are triggered. They are not weapons in the traditional sense. They are more like cosmic antibodies. When the universe detects a threat to a reality anchor, it automatically edits out the threat. Dr. Chen consulted her data tablet. According to my calculations, your fleet has approximately 7 more minutes of existence remaining. After that, you will never have existed at all. But that means the Empire will never have sent us here. The Emperor will never have given the order to attack Earth. Correct. The timeline will adjust to maintain consistency. Your Empire will have different memories. The words you conquered will remember different histories. Most people throughout the galaxy will never know that anything changed. The Admiral watched in growing horror as his crew members continued to fade. Some of them had already forgotten their own names. Others were staring around the bridge in confusion, unable to remember what they were supposed to be doing there. What are you? He whispered. What is your species? Dr. Chen sat down in a nearby chair, as if settling in for a long conversation. "We are humans, Admiral. We evolved on a small planet around a medium-sized star. For most of our history, we were just another biological species struggling to survive. But this technology, this power, about 300 years ago, we made a breakthrough in understanding the fundamental nature of reality. We learned that what most species think of as the universe is actually just the stable surface layer of something much deeper and stranger." She gestured, "and the air around them filled with complex mathematical equations that seem to hang in space like solid objects." The Admiral recognized some of the symbols, but the mathematics was far beyond Imperial science. "We discovered that reality is essentially a vast information processing system. Matter, energy, space, and time are all just different types of data being processed by quantum fields. Once we understood that, we learned how to access the source code." Source code? The underlying programming that determines how reality behaves. We learned to read it, understand it, and eventually to edit it. That is when we realized that we had a responsibility to help maintain dimensional stability for other species. The Admiral looked around his bridge, which was becoming increasingly ghostly. "So you pretend to be primitive to avoid scaring other civilizations?" "Partially, but also because revealing our true nature tends to have destabilizing effects on galactic civilization. When species learn that reality can be edited like a computer program, it often causes societal collapse. Some species become obsessed with trying to gain the same power. Others lose all sense of meaning when they realize how malleable existence is." Dr. Chun stood up and walked to the main view screen. Outside, the Imperial fleet was continuing to fade from existence. Ships that had been solid and real minutes before were now barely visible shadows. So we maintain the illusion that we are a normal, developing civilization. We let other species discover us, study us, and even threaten us. Most of the time, they move on to other targets. Occasionally, someone like your empire decides to attack us, and then you erase them. We do not erase anyone, Admiral. The universe does this automatically to protect itself. Earth is one of several anchor points that keep this entire region of the galaxy stable. If we were destroyed or significantly damaged, the resulting reality cascade could eliminate thousands of star systems. The Admiral found that he was having trouble remembering things. His own name seemed fuzzy in his mind. The memories of his long military career were becoming uncertain and vague. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "If I'm about to stop existing, why explain?" Dr. Chun turned back to him with a sad smile. "Because in a few minutes, you will be gone, and no one will remember that this conversation ever happened. I wanted someone to know, even briefly, what your species was facing. I wanted someone to understand that we are not cruel. We are simply trying to keep the universe from falling apart." The Admiral tried to respond, but he could no longer remember what he wanted to say. The bridge around him was fading away like a dream upon waking. Admiral Vexfer tried to hold on to his thoughts, but they kept slipping away like water through his fingers. The bridge of his flagship was becoming more transparent by the moment, and his crew members were beginning to forget not just their names, but their entire reason for being there. "Wait," he said to Dr. Chun, though his voice sounded distant even to himself. "This cannot be happening. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. We are the most powerful force in the galaxy." Dr. Chun nodded gently. "You were, Admiral. Or rather, you will have been. The timeline is being rewritten to account for your removal from the causal chain. Your empire will still exist, but it will have different memories, different histories." The Admiral watched one of his officers simply fade away completely. The man had been standing at the weapons console, and now there was nothing but empty space. Worse, the Admiral was having trouble remembering why anyone should have been standing there at all. The worlds we conquered. What happens to them? They will remember different histories. Some may never have been conquered at all. Others might have been taken by different empires, or may have developed differently on their own. The universe is very good at filling in gaps when timelines change. Captain Vorthik, who was now barely visible, tried to speak. "Sir, I cannot remember. What was our mission here?" His voice was faint and confused. The Admiral found that he could not answer because he was beginning to forget as well. Something about conquest, something about a fleet. But the details were becoming unclear. Dr. Chun consulted her data tablet again. 2 more minutes until complete temporal erasure. "Admiral, is there anything you would like to know before the process finishes? I realize this is probably terrifying for you." "What? What are you?" The Admiral asked a question he had been trying to understand. "What is your species, really?" "We are what happens when persistence hunters learn to debug reality," Dr. Chun said simply. "Humans evolved as pack hunters on a dangerous world. We learn to chase our prey across vast distances, to solve problems through stubborn determination, and to work together despite our differences." She gestured to the equations still floating in the air around them. "When we finally reached the stars and discovered the true nature of reality, we applied those same traits to understanding the universe itself. We chased answers across dimensions. We solved problems that other species thought were impossible. We learned to work together on a scale that spans multiple realities. But why hide it? Why pretend to be primitive? Because power like ours comes with enormous responsibility. When a species can edit the fundamental laws of reality, every action has consequences that spread across the entire galaxy. We learned that the hard way." The Admiral felt his memories continuing to fade, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. "What do you mean?" "About 200 years ago, when we first gained these abilities, we tried to help. We ended wars, stopped famines, prevented disasters. We thought we were being benevolent. But we learned that removing challenges from a species' development often destroys them more completely than any war or disaster." Dr. Chun looked sad as she continued. "Civilizations that never face serious challenges often become stagnant and eventually die out. Species that are given advanced technology without earning it tend to use it destructively. We realized that the kindest thing we could do was to let other species develop naturally. So you became guardians? Protectors? In a way. We maintain the anchor points that keep reality stable in this region of the galaxy. We prevent cosmic-level disasters that could eliminate entire sectors. But we try to stay invisible unless something threatens the fundamental structure of space-time itself." The Admiral looked around his bridge, which was now so transparent he could see through the walls to the stars beyond. Most of his crew had already faded completely. Those who remained were confusion and lost. "Your empire forced our hand," Dr. Chun explained. "When you fired on Luna, you triggered automatic defenses that we built into the dimensional substrate of this system. Those defenses are designed to protect the anchor point at any cost. Could you have stopped them? Could you have saved us?" Dr. Chun was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps, but doing so would have required revealing our true nature to your entire empire. That revelation would have destabilized half the galaxy. Billions of species would have been affected. Civilizations would have collapsed. Wars would have started as everyone fought to gain the same power we possess." The Admiral understood. "So you chose to let us be erased rather than risk that chaos." "The universe chose, Admiral. We built the automatic systems precisely so that we would not have to make such decisions ourselves. When a sufficient threat is detected, the universe protects itself." The Admiral found that he could no longer remember his own name. The concept of who he was supposed to be was becoming vague and uncertain. But somehow, his conversation with Dr. Chun remained clear. Will anyone remember that we existed? No. When the process completes, your fleet will never have existed. Your emperor will never have sent you. The battles you fought, the worlds you conquered, all of that will be replaced with different histories that do not include you. Is that not cruel? Dr. Chen smiled sadly. Admiral, in about 1 minute, you will stop existing. But the trillions of beings in your empire will continue to live. The worlds you conquered will have different, possibly better histories. The universe will continue to function. Is it cruel to edit out a small part of history to preserve the whole? The Admiral tried to think about this question, but thinking was becoming difficult. His thoughts kept wandering away from him like smoke in the wind around him. The last of his crew faded away completely. The bridge became empty except for Dr. Chen and himself. Even the ship was becoming ghostly and insubstantial. "Doctor," he said with his fading voice, "what will you do now?" "I will return to Earth and file a report about this dimensional incursion. Then I will probably go home, have dinner with my family, and help my daughter with her homework. Tomorrow I have a meeting about upgrading the reality stabilizers in the outer system." You make it sound so normal. That is the point, Admiral. We are just people trying to live our lives and keep the universe from falling apart. We do not want to rule the galaxy or be worshipped as gods. We just want to exist quietly and make sure that other species have the chance to grow and develop naturally. The Admiral felt himself beginning to fade. His body was becoming transparent, and his thoughts were scattering like leaves in the wind. But somehow, he felt peaceful. Dr. Chen's presence was comforting, like a kind teacher explaining a difficult lesson. "Thank you," he whispered. Though he could no longer remember exactly what he was thanking her for, Dr. Chen smiled. "You are welcome, Admiral. I am sorry it had to end this way." The Admiral tried to ask another question, but he could no longer remember what questions were or why someone would ask them. The bridge around him faded completely, and he found himself floating in empty space that was also fading. His last thought was a simple wonder at how beautiful the stars looked, scattered like jewels across the darkness. Then Admiral Vex ceased to exist. Dr. Chen stood alone in space for a moment, watching the last traces of the Imperial fleet disappear. With a small gesture, she shifted the dimensional parameters around herself and materialized back in her laboratory on Earth. The lab was a comfortable room, filled with plants, books, and pictures of her family. Through the window, she could see children playing in a park, completely unaware that their planet had just erased one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces from existence. She sat down at her desk and began typing her daily report. Dimensional incursion detected and resolved. Level 3 threat. No timeline complications. Recommend maintaining current deception protocols. The universe remains stable. Outside her window, life on Earth continued exactly as it always had. In the wider galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire continued to exist, but with slightly different memories. They had never heard of a small blue planet in an unremarkable star system. Dr. Chen finished her report, then checked her watch. It was almost time to pick up her daughter from school. She smiled, gathered her things, and headed home to her normal, quiet life as a guardian of reality.